You're listening to Rein with Ash and Josh.
Fucking hell.
Oh,
Good clap though.
That was a good one. That really, wow.
Remember that time we all had eardrums?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It was,
that was good,
it was
wasn't
fantastic. I've written an intro. Welcome back, everyone, to Rein It In with Ash and Josh. This is episode number 4.
Episode 4.
Episode 4. Thanks, Darren. I've written an intro.
Okay.
I wrote it about 10 minutes ago. I was meant to do it this morning.
Fresh then.
Because we've not actually had like a guest. We sort of have, but not where we've like gone, right, we need to do an intro and all this. It's just been us two and then those two. And we don't really have much to intro with you. But you hold a lot of weight, Jim.
You're stroking my ego so far, but I don't really know what the intro is yet.
Well,
so I don't know whether or not I'm complimented or offended.
Well, it's half finished, so I see that I've spelt a couple of words wrong already.
Okay, nice.
So, welcome everyone. Today's guest is called Jim Galvin. He is the closest thing I know to the real life Superman. Jim is an ex-Royal Marine and 5-time genius. World record holder.
Nice, yeah. Slightly different brand, not quite as credible.
Jim has been sharing his journey and advice through social media on a healthier living. And then I was going to go on to talk about your achievements, your new business, how amazing of a human being you are, and then you were at the front door.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
So it's my fault, basically, for being a little bit early.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, Jim Galvin, everyone clap in the audience. Thanks, Darren.
That was so feeble, I now feel worse than I did if no one had clapped.
Oh, dear. Oh, well, this is strange to be back with you, and it's fucking amazing, because I've missed you, buddy.
I miss you too.
So, if anyone that is very, very new to this, we had a podcast before we couldn't afford to do the podcast anymore. And Jim was you are the reason we got monetized on YouTube, so thanks for that.
Is that true?
Yeah, genuinely.
Oh,
Genuinely, you were the reason we got monetized on YouTube.
That's amazing.
One of our clips with you, for like a 2-minute clip, is now on like 15,000 views.
Wow, that's wicked.
Yeah, what is it? How to be a Royal Marine? Or
Yeah, something to do with the Royal Marine, which for us was brilliant to get us monetized, but my God, was our...
Yeah, you also destroyed
Really
our YouTube channel, so thank you, mate. You made us
Ups and downs.
and you're the reason we finished YouTube, because we just couldn't attract the right people. Our main like search was like how to get fit for the Royal Marines.
And we were talking about horses.
So monetised you and then completely fucked up the algorithm all in 1 2-minute swoop.
Yeah, exactly. So
Nice.
it was a time where we were very grateful and then hated you for about half an hour.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm really sorry in the same sentence.
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, truthfully.
Oh, then I'm good.
I always feel, coming away from speaking with you, I always feel like a better human.
That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
Would you not agree?
You just give off energy. Like, you just feel revamped after talking to you, and that's why we love being around you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you. Could I ask you guys, better in what way? How would you describe that betterment? Do you feel more physically energetic? Do you feel as though there's been food for thought and an insight or reflection that's been shared?
It's both. It's mental and physically.
Okay.
I think mentally, because I feel like I've compartmentalised what I needed to do when it was all going out of control in my head, and then I feel like I can execute. But then I have the energy to go forth and conquer.
Well, that's wicked, man. Well, I'm happy that I offer that energy and insight in some way.
There was one thing that you said to me, and I think you were there at the same time, was about recharging your batteries and how it's not necessarily resting, but taking yourself out of the normal environment. Like you said that you go up to London and train in London, and how much that just recharges your batteries. That has stuck with me so much. Like, genuinely have implemented that in my life. And there's so many other things. Like, you genuinely inspire me, which is why we love being around you, love talking to you, and why we were like, we have to get you on the pod again.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And as much as I'd love to kind of take credit for the fact that any of the insights that I kind of clunkily regurgitate are mine, I imagine they are clunkily regurgitated from other sources. But even if that is, I would be happy if my main way of adding value on this planet was just curating different insights and reflections and thought experiments from different people, and then just saying them in a slightly different way to my circle so that they land. So even if they're not mine originally, I wouldn't put my hands up and claim that they are, but even if they are, even if it's an insight that I heard from someone else and all I'm doing is kind of regurgitating it to you guys, I'm glad there's being value that's landing there.
Well, we are all messengers to a certain extent, aren't we? So we're just passing on what relates to us onto people around us. And
exactly.
In a circle. Like I say, with that like had to literally change my life in regards to how I approach things and setting boundaries on what I need to do to be able to continue improving and keep my energy and investing into what I'm doing.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, man. I appreciate it.
To be fair, we come away from you. It's almost like little nuggets. But there's so much at once that we could quite easily just take all of it. But there's just so many different things I'd love to implement straight away, and it's just like impossible. It's just trying to focus on like what the main thing is now. Like the last time we spoke, you introduced us to Notion. Oh my God, has Notion
game changing, right?
Saved
Absolutely
my life, honestly. With my I don't know if it comes down
needs.
Needs. I don't know if it's like my organisation, dyslexia or ADHD or what it is, but I'm so all over the place. And with that, I live by it, and it is absolutely amazing. It's almost like, even if it's like philosophical, you also have like tech advances on like
productivity hacks as well as
100%,
as well as stoic insights.
It is amazing. And so we're not going to go into the whole Jim was an ex-Royal Marine, because we did a whole podcast on that, which is on this channel. Just a completely different podcast. So if you just type in how to become a Royal Marine, I'm pretty sure out of the entire videos in the world, it will be there. But what we did want to sort of have a conversation around was healthier living, and also ancestral living.
Yeah.
I feel like we rehearse saying that at the same time. And ancestral living.
So synced,
because
seamless.
You are the natural. What's the geezer?
Guru.
No, what's the guy in America that like said he didn't do roids and he came out and said it?
Liver King.
Liver King. You're like the actual natural Liver King. It is. I'm
like the clean and therefore much skinnier Liver King.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens without the roids. It makes sense.
But I think your lifestyle is just so interesting, and like to put across that message on what you do and your day-to-day life. And yeah, that would be just to hear that is, for me, is so interesting. I find that. Yeah,
the podcast. This episode isn't for anyone. It's for us. And if people,
that's cool, man.
And if people take something away from it, fantastic. But this is for us to be. Josh and I need this.
Wicked. I like it. I like that approach.
So, is there anything new that you've like swapped up in your routine? Anything you're doing at the moment that?
Well, I mean, I think to start with, probably a little bit of kind of context of what ancestral living is to me. Then, obviously, Liver King is such like an end of the spectrum example, but for me, it kind of comes down to this realization that our bodies exist now in the 21st century as a residual effect of how they needed to be wired over the last, kind of 50 to 60,000 years, right? So we now live in a world where we have things like hyper-processed foods, we have EMF and Wi-Fi and different things, and there's a level of input-output balance that our brain should have, and a lot of these things are kind of out of kilter and off balance now, because the amount of changes that used to occur in our natural environment year by year and generation by generation was incredibly slow for basically all of human history until about kind of the 1930s, and then it just completely flipping changed, and now we live in this ecosystem that's unrecognizable. So to me, ancestral living is just, it's finding a healthy middle ground where we can put our bodies and our minds back in environments where they're more likely to thrive and be optimal and function a little bit better without having to throw your laptop off the balcony and go live in the woods. So that's the way that I look at it, of trying to find a middle ground where I can do a few little things, a few little tweaks to my environment and a few little tweaks to my habits and routines without completely destroying my life or having to forfeit the benefits of living in the modern world. So just trying to find that healthy middle ground.
So what is your healthy middle ground then?
There are the big thing for me, and this is not necessarily the thing that I prescribe for everyone, but the big thing for me, trying to return my body back to a place where it can be optimal through some ancestral living components, is sleep, because my sleep has never been that great. So as an example, a few things in the kind of the, I don't look at any screens kind of 30 to 45 minutes before bed. I've got an eye mask. I sleep in a very cold bedroom because kind of the data says that once you do fall asleep, the depth of sleep will be significantly better in a cold environment because you won't be kind of tossing and turning and kicking the covers off and stuff. So that's one thing with sleep. I also I kind of jump into a bit of temperature cycling through the day. So I have either a cold shower or an ice bath in the morning. Because if you're exposed to kind of 2-3 minutes of ice bath or like 5-minute cold shower, and your body then gets put in this kind of like this freaked out kind of fight or flight response of being cold. So what it does is it overcompensates and it tries to heat back up. Yeah. And through heating up, you wake up, your tissues start to loosen up, blah, blah, blah. So it's not necessarily the time of experiencing the cold that is the benefit, is how your body responds to that during the couple of hours after. And then conversely, at the end of the day, I have a hot shower and then come out of that and my body's trying to cool down. So that kind of helps. So just a couple of those tweaks, I think that they take very little time, and that's kind of that's my approach to it, looking for maximum kind of bang for your buck of how can I implement these habits and make a few tiny little amendments and adjustments to my routine that only take a couple of minutes, that are basically free or extremely cheap, but they give me the biggest result.
It's I heard recently, I was re-listening to a podcast with David Goggins, and he was saying like similar on like the ice bath and stuff, and it's really like fascinating his almost philosophy on it. Well, maybe it was the philosophy through the conversation that they was having. They were sort of saying like, but why would you do it? Like, you don't really benefit from it. And he was like, but Goggins was like, I want to do it, not because I enjoy it, but because I'm going to put myself in the deep end and hope that I never have to use the deep end. But if I need to go there, if anything in my life comes up, it's the apocalypse, or I'm for some reason I've fallen out of a plane and landed in the sea, like, and it's freezing terrible, I know that I can, boom, I this is not new to me, this deep dark place. And I guess it's also that mental state that it's great for the body. I don't know like the science. I know there's scientific research to why like the cold water baths are fantastic, but the mental stimulation you must get from that as well, equally just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things about cold water immersion generally, you don't really get it as much in a cold shower because it can only be so cold and you're not fully submerged, you're not fully immersed in it. But in a proper ice bath that is like less than 2 degrees, so there'll be chunks of ice in it, it doesn't feel cold, it feels painful. Like you're in there, I don't know if you've ever kind of experienced it, but it's like, it feels like you're being stabbed. There are pins and needles in your hands and your feet that you just won't have experienced unless you've done cold water immersion. And I think one of the benefits or one of the reasons why people look at it as such a great tool in regards to mental resilience is there's nowhere to fucking hide. You can't, like, if you're going for a run and the run's hard, consciously or not, you can slow down. You can kind of take your foot off the gas in pretty much anything that is deliberately uncomfortable. If you are pursuing a development in mental fortitude and robustness, you can kind of take your foot off the gas with anything that is pretty deliberate with that. With cold water immersion, you're in there. You can't do anything about it. You're in there. And I think that's one of the reasons it's such a great tool, because there's no way of mitigating the discomfort. You literally just have to flipping wait it out. Yeah. You can't hide, you can't move your body in a certain position, you can't change something to make it better, you can't move into a warmer part of the ice bath. It's just, you're there, you're up to your neck. And I think that's one of the beauties of it, is that it's just so ever present, and there's nothing, and you're so confronted with the fact that you can't run away from it. You just have to stay. And there's a powerful realization.
Do you do it in like a freezer or like an actual, like, because at the moment my ads are just ice baths, like they're like pre-designed.
They're so popular right now.
But is it just like a freezer? Because I see loads of people as well, they just get like a freezer and then they just fill it up with water and leave it outside.
So that's what I had. So I had a like a 500 litre chest freezer, and I just sealed the panels, so it basically became kind of waterproof, fill it up, and then I normally turned it on for around 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and that was enough to keep it at a certain. Obviously, if you just left it on, it would just be a block of ice.
Yeah.
It would just expand and blow itself up. But like on for 3, 4, 5 hours a day, that's when it would be around about 0, like 0 or 0.5 or something.
Have you got that on your? Oh, Darren, have you got that on your Instagram of your ice bar thing?
Let's see if Jamie can put it up now.
Come on, let's have a look.
There is, yeah. I mean, there's a few. Yeah, there's a video of me from a couple of years ago. It's actually snowing, and me and a buddy of mine are getting in, and there's some more. There will be some more recent pictures of me in there, I think.
There is also a business that's just started that literally you go there for an ice bath.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember where. It's about 2 hours away. I was looking into it. Yeah, they've set up literally like 7 or 8 ice baths.
Oh, really?
So
That's
people
interesting.
actually, they have to take themselves there. So when you're there, it's so much. It's no different to gym.
If people, surely there must be like a time limit that you can really be in there before you start to go border on that like hypothermic level of it's a bit dangerous now and there's no benefit at all. It's just more like dangerous.
Definitely with a mitigation of benefits. I think the thing, you're gonna. I think you're probably gonna have to scroll down a bit. I can't even flip and remember what it was. Definitely in regards to like mitigation of benefits. Oh yeah, there's one.
Oh, here you are.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I screen record this and put this on the podcast so people can see this.
Yeah, so that was about 0.5, I think. So there's a bit of chunk of ice there that you kind of see. So controlling your breathing as you get in.
Is that your main focus? Is that all you're focusing on in that video right now? Is your breath work, or do you take yourself to another place? If that makes sense.
No, I don't. It's a good question. I don't kind of take myself anywhere really.
No.
For me, it is all about breath. Yeah, and it's a good way of. You do just kind of clear your head, and it's so funny witnessing the narratives and the voices in your head in something like that, because you realize that all of the messages that you get, the internal monologue that we have, it's not actually truly us. It's just our brain trying to keep us safe. So it'll be like, oh, actually, I shouldn't do this today because I've got a leg session soon and I might still be cold. Or I shouldn't. Actually, to be fair, it's probably best if I don't get in this morning because of X, Y, Z. And you kind of pull yourself out, and you just realize those voices aren't really me. It's just my safety mechanism. My brain's like 4 million year old safety mechanism, just saying anything it can to prevent me from being uncomfortable.
How do you hold yourself accountable so that you do that?
But yeah, I'd struggle with that, especially in the morning. I've only just got around to like making sure I go to the gym in the morning and not leaving it in the evening. That in the morning, especially coming out. Do you do that through winter as well?
Yeah, do it through winter. I mean, I'm not doing it as much now because that was in my old place. So I'm up in London most of the time now. So it's kind of more towards cold showers. But how do I hold myself accountable? I think if there's a way that you can hack these situations so that one of the phrases I heard today on a different podcast actually was just do anything you need to do to decrease the activation energy. So overcoming the initial inertia of introducing a new habit is always the hardest thing. It would be harder for you to start ice bathing every day than it would be for someone who has been ice bathing every day for a year. Because it's so ingrained in their routine. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
But it literally requires a certain neurotransmitter in your brain to deviate from a routine.
So it's almost like learning a new skill to a certain extent.
It's almost like learning a new skill.
That's what you're saying. So once you have a routine, there is something cognitively that is almost like hard, but in all of us is just then hardwired to do that, and it's almost like almost difficult to break that.
It's incredibly difficult to break that. That's why one of the things that I say to a lot of people when they're like, "Oh, I'm just struggling to introduce this new habit," is I'm like, let yourself off the hook a little bit. You literally have 50,000 generations worth of wiring telling you to not experience discomfort if it's not necessary, and don't break from the routine that is already set.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. You almost have to kind of hack your way out of your ancestral wiring, but it can be worth it if you do that. So it's like one of the ways that I would advise someone to begin holding themselves accountable is by reminding them to truly anchor into the notion and the reminder that it is going to be significantly harder in the first 4 weeks than it will be for the rest of their lives. So if it's like every day, shit, I'm flipping it, this is going to be miserable. I don't want to do this every day. And I'm like, all of the misery is front loaded in the first month. if you do something 28 days or whatever it may be, but as an example, if you did something for 4 weeks every single day, it's going to be significantly easier to continue that. So just reminding other people and reminding yourself that it is going to be, it's like, oh God, how flipping much do I not want to do this now? There's so much mental resistance to doing this now. That mental resistance is going to be significantly less in 4 weeks' time. So just push through now, because in a couple of weeks it'll be a shit ton easier.
Right, okay. I feel like I've got to go away and like I've got to have a word for myself now, because there's some things I need to implement that with. So one of the things that I'm trying to implement, I've only done it this week, and it's only because Josh has been going on about it for months. Well, you've been doing it for months, and if anything, I don't know why it's annoyed me, but when you get hooked on things, you just annoy me in general, because you then preach it like it's gospel, and I can't say that this one bad, but I've done. Monday, Tuesday, I don't know if it's intermittent fasting or fasting. I don't know how
Intermittent.
Is 24 hours intermittent, or is that like a fast? I don't know how.
What was the fasting window? Explain to me when you ate and when you didn't.
It was like 8 o'clock Sunday, and then I don't think I ate till like 6 o'clock Monday evening.
Okay, so basically 22 hours.
Yeah.
So 22-hour fast is. Yeah, that's intermittent fasting. That's a long fasting window though.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever done it. And I feel like when you say intermittent, it feels like it's beginner level. Like I don't feel like I have full extent.
Oh, you did some junior fasting. Well done. Some rookie fasting. I'm so proud of you.
I'm currently on 5 days and 7 litres of water a day.
But you have to implement it slowly. Like that is the way of doing it. It's just starting. Like I've done a few 3-day fasts, and I'm just building
Wicked,
up.
Man, that's awesome.
And I'm gonna do a 1 week fast on coconut water. Obviously, I'm not advising.
I honestly thought you was going to say on Coke.
No, coconut water. Just the carbs and everything, and just flush out all them toxins.
How did you find the 3-day fast? How were you during it?
I've done.
He was a nightmare to be around.
Yeah, should I be asking you how it was?
No, I love it. I've done multiple 3-day fasts now. I think I've probably done 10 or 12 over 3 years now.
Wow,
so that is something I've always done for a period of time. And now where I'm at right now, I've done nearly a month now of an eating window between 6 and 8 p.m. every day. So I fast for 22, 23 hours. And I am on a cut right now as well. So for me, I find it so much easier doing a cut with a small eating window.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, like for me, it's the mental clarity. I feel amazing doing it. Like if you were slightly anxious or struggle with depression, for me, like that just goes away.
Yeah, I mean the mental clarity, that cognitive acuity is the benefit that is most frequently assigned to longer fasts like that. So if you only have an eating window of like between 1 and 2 hours, that's something called OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. So that's like a slightly more intense intermittent fasting. So the kind of the intro level of intermittent fasting is something called 16-8. So as an example, you might eat at midday, stop eating at 8 p.m. and then have a 16-hour fasting window until you then eat the next day at midday, blah, blah, blah. But if you've only got a 1 or 2 hour eating window, that's usually like one big feed. And that's something called OMAD, which is more 1 meal a day. And a lot of people do that specifically for cognitive acuity. In terms of cognition, it's like the amount of time, effort, and energy it takes your body to digest food. If your body is always digesting food, you're not going to be optimal cognitively. So if you give yourself longer fasting windows like you're doing, it makes sense that you just feel sharper.
That is actually weird, because I was saying I think it was on Tuesday, I didn't really experience it on the Monday because I was still like, I just want to eat. I didn't really I wasn't consciously being aware of like the attributes that come with fasting. Tuesday I noticed it a little bit more, and I was saying like I was fucking hungry, but at the same time I was saying to people, I was like, I feel so alert.
Yeah, man.
And I had no idea why. I was like, I felt happier, quicker, sharper. I would say, well, are there any negative? I imagine are there negatives to fasting though? Because it's so difficult to think about any negatives when I felt so great, but also so shit at the same time. It was a weird.
But that comes back to what I've said to you about whether you're addicted to eating.
Yeah, and that I was trying to say. It's like we're creatures of, again, habit and routine and that structure. And like I think I was having I can't remember what I was speaking about like breakfast, and I was like, we're so accustomed to getting up and just eating and then
Well,
going
even
out.
that breakfast, break fast.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's breaking fast. But that was all commercial about cereal. That was all implemented about cereal and everything. Breakfast. That's why they've pushed the agenda.
Yeah.
That breakfast is the most important.
That's like a Kellogg's slogan.
Yeah,
Well, it was no
literally.
different to like I think there's something to like bacon in there as well. Like they had like a shortage of like bacon sale in like the 80s, and then they pushed that bacon is like the best thing to be having in the morning. And
It's an
that's
agenda that they put across.
yeah, it's all marketing.
Corporate lobbying.
Yeah.
I mean, so intermittent fasting or having some kind of fasting protocol is definitely is big in the ancestral living community as well. Specifically because we should be able to there are so many physiological benefits that your body gets, or so many physiological processes that your body actually only starts to go through when you haven't eaten in a while. So the way that I always used to describe it on some of my YouTube channels and with some of my clients is, your body's got this to-do list, right? It's got a to-do list of different things it needs to do. It needs to fight off this infection. It needs to kill that virus. It needs to repair damaged muscle tissue. It needs to kill that cancerous cell. It needs to blah, blah, blah. So it's got this constant to-do list of 1,000,001 different processes that our 30 trillion cells need to go through. As soon as you eat, digest food goes straight to the top of the list, and everything else gets put on the back burner. So it's like your body goes through this incredible like cleanup process when you're in a fasted state for longer than about 12 to 16 hours, where it starts to get rid of loads of old cells. It starts to clean up your bloodstream. It starts to do 1,000,001 good positive things to basically do a bit of a spring clean of your body. And the only time it goes through that is if you haven't eaten in about 16 hours.
I think Chris Hemsworth fasts. So, because I was telling someone about that, I was doing this the other day, and this is where they said they're like, there's actually like quite a lot of negative repercussions to fasting, and you put yourself in a really bad. I didn't really listen.
Yeah, but that again is like supplementation that you need to be taking as well. So I actually started implementing. I take Himalayan Shilajit every single day, and for me that has been life changing. Like, since it's got like, I think it's 97 out of 101 minerals that you need, and it's absolutely amazing. That has taken me to like next level, and even the way I think, just so much clearer. Like, I see the world completely differently since taking it. And you've
with
like,
colour.
Yeah, shut up. That's nasty. That's horrible. I'm colourblind for the reference. That's why I said that.
Brutal.
Yeah, that is
unprovoked
horrible. But yeah, like, honestly, it opened my eyes so much, and how I see things. Like, genuinely feel more spiritual since I've started taking that.
What form do you take it in? Like a tablet or a tar?
No, tar.
Yeah,
Literally, and
the
dissolve
little
it.
black tar.
Yeah, black tar, and I dissolve it.
Do you take it as well?
I have done. A buddy of mine called Ben Simons, who's he's a 3-time Olympian, like a phenomenal athlete. He swears by it, and is it Nature's something? There's a company that's literally based in Forest Row.
Yeah, that does it.
Yeah, it's based down the road, and it's like the best Shilajit in Europe, and it's based company's based.
Is that
in
where
Forest
you
Row.
get yours?
Yeah, that's the literally. I literally.
Is that the health, looks like the health shop, or is it?
I ordered mine online, so I'm not too sure. I have not been there.
Yeah, but it's just in like this tiny little tub, tiny little pot.
What?
And it's just like a little black
literally
tar.
black tar.
And it comes from Himalaya.
Yeah, off the mountains.
What?
Yeah, but anyway, I added like the pink Himalayan sea salt, like drinking first thing in the morning. So like, I literally put 3 tablespoons worth. Oh my god, that was like a laxative. I literally was sprinting to the toilet. I was like, oh my god, that cleared me out. I was not in a good way.
But surely that can't be good for your liver, though.
Huh? No, you need more sodium. It really is. Like, I've done a lot of research with that. Like, some people, what they do is they do like a quarter of a jar full of pink Himalayan sea salt, and then 3/4 water. They leave it to like dissolve into it. Camera.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a great moment before I recite that I will then at this point in the podcast, and this will be the first time because after Jim goes, we will pre-record this. Make sure you subscribe video, which I will then play now. We hope you guys have thoroughly enjoyed this podcast so far.
Oh, hi. Don't forget to subscribe to the Rein podcast.
You were saying about sea salt.
Yeah, honestly, it's the sodium levels that you need. But again, there's been an agenda push that salt's bad for you when actually it's really, really good for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you start to... There's definitely a counterculture now from all the messages that different kind of consumer-led organisations used to push, like
Sea salt.
fat's really bad and the sun is really bad and
No, I don't buy sunscreen.
biodynamic. But yeah, so basically there's a huge counterculture in all this crap because it's all a lie. It's all absolutely a lie. So you're 100% right, especially when you have longer intermittent fasts. The thing that you definitely need to make sure that you keep up and you need to have more of is those electrolytes.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're having that is...
It's why,
really
for example, Ash, when I'm doing the 7-day fast,
Yeah.
it's so difficult to actually get, like, I think it's 98% of the population is dehydrated. They're not dehydrated because they're not drinking enough water. They're dehydrated because it's not the correct minerals in our water now with tap water. That's why coconut water...
So what, there's more minerals in the salt?
No, this is relevant to the salt, but I'm saying
Right.
this is why when I'm doing the 7-day fast, I'm doing with it coconut water, although it's got calories in it, but it actually has the minerals and everything that I still need.
Like the more natural stuff as a human we need.
Yeah.
to...
It'll have the right electrolyte balance, which is the thing that you need. So a lot of the processes that your body goes through when you're in a fasted state, it needs one of them being. So we've got obviously body fat around our body in different places usually for different reasons. So your body, as an example, it stores fat on your stomach because of excess cortisol, so stress hormone. It stores, fat on your shoulder for different flipping reasons or whatever. And one of the things to really break down that visceral, like the fat around the organs, that's the really thick fat that's difficult to break down. When you're in a fasted state, that's one of the opportunities that your body gets to break down that really stubborn visceral fat, but it needs electrolytes to do it.
Right.
So it's like your body needs, sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and it's not just it needs the amounts. The balance is really is like essential. So it needs the right amount of them in the right balance to go through a lot of these processes.
So basically, I didn't even so there's reason where you store certain parts of fat on your body almost has different reasons for why it goes there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my head around that. But that's so like not known because I feel like that's almost if say someone had big thighs, for example, they go to the gym but they can't shake the thighs or whatever, and you'd go, oh yeah, but the thighs are because your mum's being an arsehole. So you need to sort your relationship out with your mum. Do you know what I mean? Like you just know, like you go, right, okay, well that's going to help my lifestyle. So like I feel like my lower stomach could be more like my body fat could be down a little bit more, and I just can't shake it. Well, I'm also lazy to cardio, but that could be then like that extra body fat percentage could be because of something completely different to exercise routine or healthy eating.
Yeah, I mean it usually will be. In like very rudimentary terms, most people struggle with body fat in like kind of one or two places if you have a distinction. The lower abdomen, which is what you're saying there, lower part of the stomach, and then the kind of the love handles on the sides. So lower abdomen is cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which is that cannot necessarily only be because we like feel stressed from stressful things. That can be there's just too much input in our lives. As an example, sleep deprivation just causes your cortisol to go up.
Yeah.
So because your body, so it's anything that your body would consider a stressor. Training too hard, like if you win an Olympic gold medal, your emotional association to it is like flipping heck, this is the best day of my life. You feel incredible. You're like drowning in serotonin, but it's still an incredible amount of cortisol because it was a very like physiologically stressful time. And the one on the side, the love handles, is usually insulin resistance. It's people who have like grown up in their teenage years and through their 20s having lots of like highly palatable processed foods like with really high sugar content.
I feel like a lot of this isn't. Do you reckon? Well, it's like you said with the marketing. A lot of this isn't known, but I feel like if we almost, it makes so much sense to. Again, Jim, when I speak to you, I feel like my eyes are opened.
Yeah, but it's society.
Yeah, and that's what I say.
society.
It's that ancestral living makes sense of like why people are happier. It's no different like when they say a lot of the tribal people in Africa or like the deep South American jungles that are like away from social media. They are the happiest people in the world because they don't they're literally just down to I hunt, I kill my food. We like enjoy the people we're here, we're present in the moment, and we're not sort of wrapped up with everything else. And it makes so much more sense, especially when you start going, okay, I mean, I don't know that much about like the health and well-being side on like how the body functions and stuff like, but you're very into it, but it makes so much sense to do it. I just feel like they almost market it being as like a very expensive way of living.
Yeah, but also my outlook
To keep you from living like that.
completely. But my outlook on everything now is to create longevity in my life. Like even now, I've added plyometrics to my training.
Oh, wicked! Yeah, awesome.
And that is
You might need to
because
explain what that is.
so it's just a different type of training, which is more like speed. Actually, we've got the guru here. Why am I explaining it? We'll let Jim explain it because he can go into far more detail than I.
So plyometrics are basically as Josh said there, a training methodology that is based around speed and power. So normally that would be like, running very fast or jumping. It's basically like most people would correlate plyometrics with different jumping exercises, but it's basically anything that's really, really explosive. With the theory that one of the things that isn't trained in the human body a lot these days is that maximal intent kind of output. So which is why plyometrics with things like different jump variations, different throw variations with the slam ball and stuff, they're really, really flipping helpful.
Yeah, so the reason that I've implemented this in my training now is because I'm 26, but I saw a quote and it was like, when you get to 30, there'll be a time where you sprint for the last time. And once when you sprint for your last time, you start losing the ability to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I don't train these things now, in 10 years' time, I might not be able to do it because I haven't looked after myself and taken care of my body. And if I have kids one day, I want to be able to play. I want to be able to do different things with them. But if I don't train my body correctly now, I won't be able to. And that's why I do far more cardio, because obviously I was doing powerlifting for a period of time. Yeah. So it was amazing the lack of mobility that I had for it. And the dynamism? What have I gone? I just made up a word.
Dynamism's right.
Dynamism, yeah. I just can't pronounce it.
Dynamism.
That I had from it, I was just like, it completely shut down my body. I feel lighter now because I'm training plyometrics. It's like completely changed, again, everything for me.
Yeah, it's good, man. I mean, feeling light on your feet enough that you can run, that you can jump. That's being truly functional. I think when you feel
it's
as
an
a
athlete, really.
Yeah, exactly. That you maintaining a base level of athleticism is crucial, and this is why you have people like, like Matt Does Fitness, like the YouTuber.
Yes,
who's like 2 million subscribers or whatever. Enormous bloke, squats 270 or whatever. Phenomenal flipping looking athlete. He had a full Achilles rupture from playing cricket. And this just the guy's not a fucking accountant. You know what I mean? Look at him. He's in extraordinary shape. So that just shows that you can be quote unquote physically fit and an incredible quote unquote all round athlete. But if you don't maintain a level of athleticism, you will not be functional, and life will catch you. Like if you can't play, that's the most British way to rupture your Achilles in the world, is to look like that and play cricket and then get taken off in an ambulance from the most like sedentary sport ever. So that just shows if you don't do...
So he just ruptured an Achilles. That was
yeah. So I don't know if you guys know Chris Williamson, who runs the Modern Wisdom podcast. So he's the same. He's obviously he's not in the fitness industry as such, but he's an incredibly fit and healthy bloke.
Was he on? He looked like he was. Was he on Love Island?
He was on series 1 of Love Island.
Yeah. He looks like he's straight out of one of the one of the boy bands that they had that in the UK.
But touching what you said about, I have an argument with people quite frequently regarding health, because they'll say, I'm skinny, so I'm healthy. And I'm like, I don't understand why this has been like this. And it's like another form of agenda, really. Again, that if you're skinny, you're healthy. And I'm like, you don't take care of yourself, you don't look after yourself, you don't have a correct diet, and you're telling me that you're healthy because you're skinny. I'm like, no, you're wrong. You don't understand that this is an agenda that's saying that you are healthy because you're skinny, and that is what in people's minds it's almost like they've been brainwashed that is what they believe.
Well, that was mine because I was really, really skinny. Well, you was as well, and I thought I was really, really healthy. I thought I was like I thought I was built like an athlete.
But the reason I was skinny was because I had it in my head that I had to be skinny to look good on a horse.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that was like, I was like, I needed to be as skinny as possible to look good on a horse because I hated looking at someone. And if you didn't look elegant on a horse, I hated that.
Actually, yeah, the majority of equestrians are like really, really thin.
Yeah. And obviously I then went the opposite way because I really like...
Is it to do with like proportion for the rider to the horse? Like what looks...
I don't know, it's the aesthetic, isn't it? It's aesthetically pleasing looking at someone that fits the horse well, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, makes sense.
If you think, not so much in show jumping, but with dressage, it's all about how it looks and how you perform.
Yeah, like the optics would be a big
exactly.
part.
So someone might do the exact same movement and do it precisely the same, but it just looks better.
Right, yeah, makes sense.
Because of the overall picture is more complete.
That tickled me more than it should have done. I enjoyed that.
Darren's just put on the
thank you, Darren,
on Google fat
for bringing this to our lives.
Fat man on a horse, skinny man on a house on a horse.
Skinny man on a house. That would have been a very different picture.
Yeah,
this is an old photo.
You can tell
of
he
Josh.
doesn't have much equestrian knowledge from what he's typing.
It's just a teenager riding his
Okay,
horse
so I've
bareback.
got a question for you guys then. So,
oh shoot, love that.
Or as an extra kind of bit of context, you guys asked me in regards to everything under the umbrella of ancestral living, the kind of things that I do, in terms of things like intermittent fasting, in terms of things like cold water immersion, sauna therapy, blah, 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 lots of these different things. They've all been physical and external changes that I've made to, in an attempt to somehow revert me back to a way of being that was probably more likely for me to feel healthy and optimal and happy.
Yeah.
And being healthy and physiologically optimal was my priority for most of my 20s. Obviously, I was a Royal Marine. I was a Team GB athlete. I was doing stupid world record challenges every fucking day. So being physically optimal was always kind of the top of the agenda. And then into my early 30s, being happy became my primary objective, but also trying to diagnose why on every possible metric we live a better life now than at any point in human history. I'm not worried that I'm going to leave this podcast and get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger on the way back to my car. I'm not worried that I'm going to starve. I'm not worried that I'm going to get kicked out of my house. I'm not worried that East Grinstead is going to invade Ashurst Wood and like every young man's going to die.
We could do that. We could do
East
that.
Grinstead could Let's do it.
I would say Forest Road and Ashurst Wood are probably far healthier than East Grinstead. So
100%. We probably they'd outrun us.
Yeah, Forest Road will be chucking some spears. So, but if that is the case, if on every possible metric we are safe and happy and healthy, and even with other things like we can wear what we want without having bricks thrown at us, we can travel anywhere in the world that we want, we've got so many more opportunities to we can listen to the music we want, we can decide what job we have. So these are very reasonable metrics why we're like this is better than at any other time in human history. We're not being drafted into war. We're not being attacked by animals. We're not worried for our general objective livelihood. Yet pretty much every segment of data overwhelmingly suggests that young men and young women are significantly less happy than at any point in human history. So why do you guys think that is?
I feel like I semi heard this. I think it's because there's no challenge. I feel like in society with so much freedom or so much concepts of we can do everything, we've got everything at the tip of our fingers on our phone, we have food all optional, that level of struggle and I'm not talking like financial struggle, like someone that's really struggling financially. How am I going to put food on the table? I mean, like the physical struggle of going out and hunting and having to get it and accomplish it and then eat it, and you feel almost that release of endorphins of we can sit here together as a community and share what we've done. Or
it would have been a successful day if you were all round the table, all eating
I
together.
really want to remember the name of it is, but there's like I said, there's a tribe. I think it's a South American tribe, and that is their objective. Is that the only day is just food? It's got they take out what we stress about day to day. So it's how we're going to eat. And so we overcomplicate our lives with how do we want to wear? What do we want to wear? How do we want to look? Because it's amazing that we live in a society that we can wear what we want. However, that's 5% of my energy going, oh, do I look nice? Is it okay? Is people going to look at me?
And it does take energy.
And it does. And then you go out and maybe someone thinks it's a bit funny. Or, am I going to change my hairstyle today? Are people going to really care? And it's then you start looking on social media. Well, they're doing really well. Their followers have gone up, but their lifestyle looks amazing. And then you're constant comparison.
Yeah.
And
comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think that's probably why we're less happier, and I feel like I can firsthand testify to that. I feel like I'm going through a bit of a change at this present moment in time, where I'm very self-aware of. I'm aware of like the things I want, but I know they're really negative for me. Like in life, it's good to have goals, but I feel like sometimes my goals are not negative goals, but the implications of getting them present day is negative for me. And I'm aware of that, and I know I need to change that, but it's so difficult to I can't just go, sweet, okay, well, I know that actually me going, I want all this money so I can have freedom. I know that's fantastic, great goal to have, but then at the same time, but that's not important. And I have to keep like bringing myself back. And like I was saying to Charlie the other night, I was like, look, if everything went away, if our phones just disappeared and it was back to basics, like we just need to eat, I was like, I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy with the people I have in my circle, in my life. And I feel annoyed at myself that it's so easy to forget that.
I get that. I would say, again, one of the things I would emphasize is let yourself off the hook a little bit. It's very difficult to switch off our natural wiring, and it's very, very, very difficult to just stop feeling a certain way. So you're 100% right in that comparison is the thief of joy. I flipping love that quote. I truly buy into that. And I think that one of the worst pieces of advice that someone could get, a young guy, because I'm 35 now, I don't look it, thank you guys. And like, I think I'm lucky enough that I'm probably in that interesting transition generation where the smartphone, the time that everyone got smartphones was when I was about 20, 21. So I had a childhood without that. And I think I'm fucking blessed that I'm now in my 30s having access and capability of all this technology, but there's still a bit of a kind of a purity and an innocence of not having it when I was a child. But I think one of the worst pieces of advice that you could give anyone between 14 and 28 now is when someone's like inevitably comparing themselves, comparing the messy, because it's not like we're comparing our Instagram feed to other people's Instagram feed, right? That's not what happens. What people do is they compare the messiness and the chaos of their own mind to someone else's curated Instagram feed. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
so
like
I'm not being like, I'm comparing my picture to that. I'm like, God, I'm looking at their picture and their life. Look how happy they look. They're so successful. They're so put together. They know everything that's going on. They've got everything under control. But I know the inside and the recesses of my own psyche, and I'm just completely fucked up. I haven't got a clue what's happening. So it's like you're comparing the messiness of your own head to the curated version of their existence, right? And I think one of the worst bits of advice you can give someone is just try not to worry about it. Try not to compare yourself to them. And the reason I think that is such bad advice is it turns out from like an anthropological point of view that comparing yourself to others, the phrase I like to use, and I think I got this from the Modern Wisdom podcast actually, is comparing yourself to others is a feature, not a bug of the human condition. And that basically means that we literally have 100,000 generations worth of neurology telling us that we should compare ourselves to other people. The issue is we used to live and exist in groups and villages and tribes and blah, blah, blah of around about 150 people. That is what's called Dunbar's number. Robin Dunbar was this famous anthropologist, and he basically worked out that people, even if they were in like jungle groups, if they were in tiny little tribes of like 30, they'd go into like
a naturally collective,
jump into a little cluster of around about 150. If it was an agricultural village of 5,000 people, they'd splinter off into groups of about 150. In the jungle, in the desert, in flipping Eskimos, whatever, all humans seem to congregate into groups of around about 150. No one knows why, it just seems to be this random thing, right? So we used to compare ourselves to the quality and handsomeness and beauty and effectiveness and strength and whatever of 149 other people. Now we're doing it with 7 billion other people. You see what I mean? So no wonder people are starting to struggle with feelings of inadequacy, because we can't just turn off that natural comparison, because it is literally a feature of our brain. So I think if we tell people comparing yourself to other people is, if we say just switch it off and don't worry about it, they still feel inadequate, and now you also pile on top a lot of shame because they can't switch it off. They're like, well, now I still feel as though I'm inadequate compared to them, and now I feel shameful at the fact that I'm still frustrated at the fact that I'm inadequate compared to them. So it just kind of keeps layering on these shame points onto it. So just reminding people that comparing yourself to others is a natural feature might just allow some people to let themselves off the hook a little bit.
That makes perfect sense, because you always hear, don't compare yourself to other people. You're on your own lane, all of this, but actually when you look at it from a different angle, no, you should compare yourself to other people because you're hardwired to compare yourself to other people. But the only reason you feel that way is because you're just comparing yourself to millions more people than we are wired to compare ourselves to.
Yeah,
it's crazy, that number of like 150. You say like people go into the tribes of that, and you think like big blocks of flats, whereas like in a tribe you'd know everyone. You're now like taking a piss next like for a dry rule someone else is like that you have never met before in your life. Is like their head is at like that same level, like sleeping in their bed. It like when you look at it from that angle, it's weird to see.
But you've also got to think like social interaction that's dropped so much as well for people.
Yeah.
Like they play on games together rather than actually interacting with people. And
correct.
so,
Yeah. So
it's no different. It's like dating apps. Yeah. It's like no one has the I wouldn't even say the balls to go and like speak to someone in person now. But it's like it's just not a done thing. No. Like I only remember doing it rarely growing up.
Society is so unnatural now for us.
Yeah,
so unnatural for us. Do you believe that is how society is made and how it is extremely unhealthy, whether it's the chemicals in our food or deodorant or whatever? Do you think that is being forced upon us? Do you think they're doing this?
Are we slowly going down a conspiracy road?
No, I don't necessarily think conspiracy, because it's happening.
Yeah, and like, that's the thing. I completely agree with you, but it's so difficult for people.
But why? Okay, then why is this happening? Why are there so many like you think about tap water? Why is that so unhealthy for you? Why is that so bad? Why is all this processed food so bad for you? Why is there all the chemicals in deodorants, aftershave, shampoo? Why is it so bad for you?
I think that to mass produce and mass roll out anything, there will be processes that have to be done to something, whether or not it's water in the water mains feed or the mass production of food or whatever. In terms of the agenda behind it, I don't know if there is this, global collective of people who want to put certain chemicals in the air and pump out, 5G to make everyone dumb so they don't rebel against the Illuminati. I don't know if I buy into that. I think that different processes do get pushed through and they get signed off, even though they might be unhealthy, because it makes people money. So I think that there is an ulterior motive or an agenda with certain institutions and organizations, but I don't know if I believe it transcends that of money.
Right.
I think that is the primary reason that a lot of, you know, that big pharma have a lot of power.
Exactly. They run the world.
What is
really.
it that is it Jeff Bezos just bought up recently? Like I'm talking like last 6 7.
What, like for me,
Bought up loads of farming land, and they're
Bill
now.
Gates.
Oh, is it Bill Gates?
Yeah.
What was it? Have a look. Was it Bill Gates just bought up like loads of
Yeah, it's
farming?
Bill Gates, World Health. He's one of the, for me, I just can't believe he has so much power in health.
Are you literally going to put
He
Bill
owns a lot of
Gates
stuff.
bought farm?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's got a lot of money.
Uh,
Like, for example, have you seen that he's trying to create processed meat? Not processed meat, fake meat, isn't he? He's trying to create fake meat. And yeah, already studies have come out that it's because obviously there was an agenda that meat is really bad for you, especially red meat. Whereas I've been a massive advocate for eating red meat. That's what I live off.
you don't touch chicken, do you?
No, I don't touch chicken. But yeah, Bill Gates is creating meat, and already in studies that the link to cancer within this fake meat is so high.
Go
But
back.
it'll come out, of course it will, because again, pharmaceutical companies.
Can you go
And
back
that's
onto
what-
how much that last one? You're looking into Bill Gates Red River Trust purchases 2,100 acres of land in northeast North Dakota, formerly Capel Farm. The trust purchased it for $13.5 million.
But look at Holland.
That's a
Have you seen everything going on in Holland with
The only
farmers?
thing I'll say to like just play devil's advocate on this a little bit, Bill Gates spending $13.5 million is basically like us dropping 20p.
Yeah. It's pocket change.
This guy is so unbelievably raveled up in like so many different things. He will have wealth, and this is not me saying that I think he's innocent. I don't know,
No,
and the
but he's got
overwhelming
wealth
likelihood is we'll
management
never
at that
know.
point.
He will have teams and teams and teams of wealth managers who do this stuff.
Yeah.
He won't even fucking know about this. The whole world knows about this because it's on Google. I bet he doesn't know.
I think everyone knows about this.
He has no idea what he owns.
There
These
was
guys,
a massive kick up about this, so he must have got some.
But like-
is it
yeah,
the
he
fake
probably knows about it now. I bet he didn't know before.
Yeah, Bill, we've bought you a farm.
Yeah, you own this, do I?
Yeah, you'll find out. It's on CNN tomorrow.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are happy.
Yeah, but yeah, like he was a fake meat. But if you look into Holland now, they're closing all the farms. They're shutting them all down. There's so many protests with farmers out in Holland at the moment.
Yeah.
Again, because they want to stop the production of meat. Like, if you think about it, in the supermarket, there is a section for organic food. A section.
It's just
which
a
is
market
organic
for
food
it,
is
yeah.
what we should be eating. But
Yeah.
in every supermarket, there's always a section for organic food, which is the area that is.
But you could
healthy
go.
for us.
You could go down a path of, is the organic food that they say is organic really organic?
They have to actually go through tests. In the UK, they actually do have to go through tests. It's different in America.
So
Like,
right.
America with this is probably far. They are far like further down with all the conspiracies and all the talks about what's done to
whether
the
it's
meat
real.
and the food and
I
stuff
think
like
they're
that.
a lot more liberal with certifying things
Yeah.
organic in America, whereas here I think it is more stringent. Like there are independent bodies
Yeah.
that do check what you're doing to
The
make sure that it
regulations
actually
that
is.
actually-
Are you
pass.
down on the ancestral living yet of like eating raw meat and have you tried it? Do you do it?
Not raw meat.
You've not gone full Liver King.
I haven't gone full Liver King, no. I can't grow a good enough beard, basically. It's the only reason why. Not raw meat. I do agree that there's a lot of data to suggest that eating organ meats, basically, ancestral living, one of the phrases that you might hear is what's something called nose to tail. And that basically means that when we used to kill an animal, we used to harvest and eat all of it, basically everything that we could. And now we kill like a 500 kilo cow, take 3 steaks and just throw the rest in the fucking bin, which is just so wasteful. And the idea is that there's actually peptides and minerals and vitamins and amino acid chains and things. There are nutrients. There's really good stuff in some of the parts of the organ meats that aren't in just the fleshy portion. So you would have a much more well-rounded nutritional intake if you ate nose to tail. Basically, if you ate all of an animal as opposed to just eating a little bit of the fleshy part. And there's also a certain amount of data now to suggest that in terms of some vitamins and minerals, they're significantly more bioavailable from animal organs than they are even from plants. So a big part of ancestral living now, a lot of big proponents of ancestral living are starting to hugely move away from eating vegetables.
Yeah,
Really interestingly, yeah.
There was a scientific study, I think, and literally done on what the vegetables actually hold, and I can't remember what. Jamie, can you get this up?
I thought we were calling him Darren.
Darren, whatever your name is, can you get this up about vegetables? There was a study from a university basically linking the vegetables to cancer, like the properties in these vegetables to cancer.
How amazing is this TV?
And literally,
it's so good, isn't it?
So that is flipping helpful. So there are these things in vegetables called lectins, which are basically...
Don't need Google, we've got Jim.
There we go. You definitely need Google, so I'm making this up. So the idea, like the phrase that a buddy of mine told me once is, he was like, plants don't have teeth. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, animals have defense mechanisms, right? They have teeth, they have claws, they have very fast legs, they have wings to get away to protect themselves. So, and vegetables don't have any of those things. So they have something called lectins, which is basically this chemical which can make you very slightly ill if you're eating them. So the idea is one of the differences between, because a lot of carnivore or paleo or ancestral living kind of...
Oh, that's clicked off. I thought you were saying I've managed to get something on the TV. And maybe that's another break where we say, make sure you subscribe. We'll do this. We need to now film this afterwards.
You can start this one.
What am I saying?
Subscribe to YouTube.
Subscribe to YouTube.
No, sorry. No, wait. As in, maybe a bit. I was just summarising it, what you had to say, not actually say subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to the Rein In podcast on YouTube. It's available on
Spotify, Apple Music.
I don't like the way you're treating us right now.
Subscribe to the Rein In podcast on Spotify.
Now say back to the podcast.
Back to the podcast.
So the idea is that the prevailing theory is one of the differences between fruit and vegetables is that fruit wants to be eaten. So it wants to be eaten by like birds and animals or whatever. They then go for a wander, go for a fly, whatever, basically like crap out the seeds, and then that's how the fruit like proliferates and literally spreads its seed and grows, right?
Yeah.
So in theory, with that theory, fruits want to be eaten, but vegetables don't. So vegetables have this defense mechanism called lectins, which is basically this chemical that can kind of make you a little bit ill. And the idea is people will be like, well, if you can't eat vegetables, how do you get all the vitamins and minerals you need?
Yeah.
And the prevailing theory is there are all of these vitamins and minerals
you can get in like meats and organs
are in organ meats, and they are a hell of a lot more bioavailable in organ meats than they are in vegetables.
It does lead me onto a question. Have you heard of the Dr. Sebi?
No.
Okay. Can we get this up? So obviously some people believe, I do personally believe, that we evolved from apes, and obviously apes don't eat meat. But when you look at how strong and muscly they are, it is incredible. So some of their theories is that we don't actually need protein in our diet, that you just need the minerals in your diet, and that is why apes are so strong, is they get the 101 minerals in their diet. We just don't. He's like really on the alkaline diet. Like, this has thrown me off because I've always been like carnivore based and everything like this, but this really opened my eyes to looking at it from a different perspective. And I think Dr. Sebi, or I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Sebi?
It was the mucus, which is like, and he's talked about black seed oil, which I take.
Because there's also like alkaline water as well. Like,
alkaline water, like he's proposed that is like a really good treatment for cancer, and how every single illness is linked to mucus. A build up of mucus. If you've got AIDS, what do you cough up? You cough up mucus. You get mucus in your lungs. You get mucus, whatever, from whatever illness that you have. And his idea behind it is breaking down that mucus and getting rid of that bad mucus inside you. But his is all, like I say, on an alkaline diet and he doesn't endorse eating meat at all. Which for me has opened my eyes to look at it. I'm hugely on my red meat. But it was definitely interesting to see it from a different side.
Alfredo Darrington Bowman. That's Dr. Sebi?
Yeah, his kids are still alive and they still put across the same message.
Better known as Dr. Sebi, was honoured self-proclaimed herbalist, healer who was practiced in the United States in the late 20th and 21st century, but one claimed to cure all diseases with herbs and plant-based alkaline diet. What did he die of? Cause of death, pneumonia. Well, he couldn't sort pneumonia out.
Well, there's conspiracy theories that he was actually killed.
Oh, really?
Because he actually...
because he's taking money away from...
for pharmaceutical companies, because he actually went to court with 53... Was it 53 people and he cured cancer in them?
What?
Yeah. And it's all in Supreme Court. This is all legal. And then I think just after this, he died suddenly after that.
So when did they take it to court? That must have been
it's like in the 1980s. Like, I can't... It's really bad. Sorry?
He won the court cases.
Yeah, he won the court cases.
What?
Yeah, he proved that he could... This is what I mean. It's so difficult to...
So I think if you... As like a general bit of context for... So I'll share with you one of my kind of like... And we might have spoken about this in the last one actually, but one of my like anchoring philosophies that I think is just an extraordinarily helpful reminder for pretty much every aspect of life. We need to a certain extent, become aware of our own lack of intelligence, lack of awareness and incompetence in certain things. We haven't got anything completely figured out, right? And one of my favorite phrases, something that I anchor into regularly, is the enemy of growth is certainty.
The enemy of growth is... wait, I need to, like, in my head...
The enemy of growth is certainty.
So if you think you're 100% sure of something...
Yeah.
There's no way that you are going to develop your understanding. You will literally look at life through a limited lens and be like, if something doesn't fit that exact kind of dogma, it's just a lie. And I just don't think that's a very smart way to live. I don't think it's a very smart way to think. A lot of scientists, they say the enemy of growth is certain. Like, scientists aren't sure of anything. They admit that. That is literally their thing. They're like, this is what the evidence suggests at the moment. But to the end of the day, I'm willing to have my mind changed with compelling enough evidence.
So similar to, I guess, if you go from a young age, to use me as a self-example, I'm only ever going to be an actor, which I was when I was younger. I'm only ever going to be an actor. That's all I know. That is what I'm going to be, blah, blah, blah. That you almost the enemy of that adaptation, which I've been lucky enough to go down those routes and do social media and do this or do that. But I may not have potentially done this because I'm so certain that I'm going to do that other thing, essentially.
You close off other opportunities.
You close off avenues because
you won't see other things if you're only... If you're so kind of in this, you don't have wide enough peripheral vision to kind of see anything else. And in terms of preference, which is kind of the example that you've given, that's extremely important. I'd say it's as or more important when you believe that something either is or isn't reality. To say like the cause of all cancers is X, or like eating this is absolutely bad as like an absolute state, it's just really flipping dangerous, especially when it comes to nutrition. And the reason for that is... So my speciality in the world of kind of health and fitness is exercise prescription. And that is a lot more linear. It's a lot more direct. So as an example, if a white man, a black man, a Japanese... It sounds like a joke, doesn't it? A Japanese man...
all walk into a bar and all walk into a gym and they start squatting and they do 3 heavy squats. They do 3 days a week of heavy squats at 3 reps. They will all adapt in the same way. The overwhelming likelihood is... Like, one of them isn't going to do... If you have someone of average fitness, if they just start doing powerlifting work, they're not going to get a better marathon time but get weaker. You see what I mean? Yeah. They're all going to develop in the same way. This is why people overall, the general consensus is exercise is much more of a linear science. In a particular stimulus gives usually a particular result. The amount of, like, how much better at squatting someone's going to get, or how much stronger generally, or how much whatever, is always up for debate, and there's a level of individuality based on each person. Nutrition is not the same. This is where something called biological individuality is starting to come into it a lot more now. So I don't know if you've heard of something called Zoe. So you can get like this, something called a continuous glucose monitor that you like literally, it's like diabetics have it, but they're rolling out to the general public now. So you have this little like pod thing on your arm. You like literally inject it onto your arm. What?
And what it does is it basically gives you a live reading of your blood glucose levels. So one of the things that can do is it will tell you how favourably your body is responding to food. So
Glucose monitor.
yeah, so as an example, there are some people who literally will be healthier if they eat ice cream compared to broccoli. So when that is the case, having someone who says this is an absolute state, this is either absolutely good for everyone or this is either absolutely bad for everyone, in my opinion, guys, don't trust them. The people that you need to listen to in regards to nutrition are the people who say, this study says this study says this. This group of people are like, if you're Caucasian, if you're white, if you're a Northern European descendant, you'll probably respond better to this. If you're from West Africa, you'll probably respond better to this. Those people, in regards to nutrition and food and health, are the people that I listen to.
Yeah.
Anyone who says everyone in the world should be doing X and no one in the world should be doing Y, I instantly discount them because they're dumb as shit. Because nutrition is such an unbelievably convoluted minefield where two people, you can literally have siblings who respond completely different to certain foods.
That is crazy.
So there's no way that these general studies are going to work, which is why the world of nutrition now is going into this individualized data. So like literally last week, I got a blood test done with a company called Medichecks, who do like a full blood panel of things like thyroid function, liver function, kidneys, testosterone levels, other hormone balances and stuff. And I know that stuff is right because it's literally from my body, so it's my blood. So that's the kind of, if people want more data on what works for them, the thing that I encourage them to do is to go get individualized data from their blood, from their DNA, from their whatever.
Is that the same thing that I remember we spoke ages about in the gym about, like you sent off and it also like gave such specifics, like you pay a little bit more and it comes back, they do the extra tests
hair
on
sample, wasn't it?
Oh, is it a
so
hair sample?
You can get DNA tests.
It was like don't eat eggs. You're like, eggs don't go well.
Okay,
with
so
your
that's intolerance testing,
right? Okay,
which there are different forms of getting intolerance tests. There are different forms of getting hormone panels and this stuff. I would recommend, if anyone actually wants to do it properly, they need to do it. They need to do it with blood. So you can do it with hair. You can do it with saliva. You can do it with a few different ways. But I advise everyone, because it's just so much more accurate if you get it done with blood. But this is the direction that nutrition's going in now. So if anyone,
you can check anything.
Do you
from
know
here.
what? Right, I reckon we get ours done.
Yeah,
and then we do another pod.
Yeah,
with our results.
Yeah,
and we go through our results.
But wouldn't that make sense? Because imagine if you guys.
I've just looked at the price, Carl. Is advanced well man blood test?
You bought these microphones, you got no money left.
150. What do you get for £159? Actually,
look, guys, we need to take our blood, so you need to support the podcast.
Yeah,
please don't.
This is time that we announce our Patreon. This is an advanced health MOT for men of any age, which includes hormones and nutrition. We actually need to. So I had osteopath. Is that dying? It's 10%. Okay, we got a little bit of time. So I had osteopath on Monday, and this is going to sound funny, and I mean it deadly serious. So I'm going to try to say it with a straight face.
I can tell you're really trying to stay composed here.
I know, because I don't want this to come across wrong, because I'm not making a joke at this. My osteopath, in all seriousness, said to me...
She has also known me since I was like 7 years old, just for reference. Like, she's a family friend.
It was the second time I've only ever met her.
Yeah, but she knows you because of me, so there's more...
She thinks I'm autistic.
I thought it was.
Don't laugh at that.
I thought we were autistic.
Yeah, no, but
is that really in an osteopath's remit?
I literally received like.
Well,
to diagnose autism.
She self-diagnosed.
Look, and you've got a little bit of a lateral deviation in your spine and a bit of autism in your back.
Don't diagnose
I literally got like just a random text saying we need to go to London to get checked for autism. That's all I received, and I was like. Why?
They're not going to be able to give you an autism test on Medichecks, by the way. You know that you can't do a blood test and be like, your thyroid function's fine, but you got too many autism points in your blood.
Yeah, apparently there's this place in London that you can check for. But she said it to someone else, and they came back. They're like 40 years old, and they actually had autism. But I find autism fascinating because it's so that spectrum is so far that you can sit on it without ever realizing. There was an influencer I saw a couple of weeks ago talking about talking about it on TikTok, and they were saying, I can't remember how they got or what initiated them going and getting tested, but they're like 27 years old and never thought it, and I think went and just got tested and came back with that you've got autism, that's why you do certain things, whatever. And they're like, well, to my stereotypical like knowledge of autism, I'm nothing like that, so it's so incomprehensible. And like, so I was having this conversation with my osteopath, and she was talking about Josh and I. She was like, "It's so obvious that you two have autism." So I need to say,
And were you like, thanks?
yeah, it was. But no, I'm genuinely really interested to go and get.
You probably weren't allowed to say that in public.
Was I
You've been
not?
diagnosed by an osteopath for autism.
Oh,
Like, that's probably really bad.
did I say osteopath? I meant my personal shopper / hairdresser. They don't know where
Probably
I go.
equally as qualified as an osteopath. to
Yeah,
diagnose
fair
autism.
enough.
Exactly.
Well, what we could do is we could main signs of.
Well, I definitely think we need to get our bloods done, and then we get Jim back on the pod, and we'll go through nutrition and where we're lacking and what we need to do.
100%. Before we wrap it up, you just to a bit of promotion for you. You've started a new business, I see.
I have, yes. So
Give yourself some promo on that.
Thanks, mate. So I have been in the fitness industry for about kind of 10 plus years now. I had a business, Atlas, which you guys are obviously both aware of, that I sold last year. You know this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That I sold last year, and I've been messing around with some online programming for another firm, but I've actually left there about 2-3 weeks ago to start my own online coaching brand. So it is specifically for men that don't really know how to kind of classify and categorize themselves as a kind of athlete. They're not a CrossFitter, they're not a functional fitness athlete, they're not a powerlifter, they're not purely a bodybuilder, they're not purely kind of a recreational athlete, but they're interested in all of it. But they just don't feel as if they've ever found the right program that has the right kind of ratio and balance of all of those different components. And basically the reason that I've kind of embarked on this journey is that was the program that I was looking for about 10 years, a particular style of training that balanced everything that I wanted to balance. So a little bit of classic strength training, a little bit of power and athleticism with the plyometrics, a little bit of like functional conditioning work, a little bit of functional bodybuilding, getting out and doing a few bits in nature as well, even if you're just kind of plodding around for 5K. And basically after about 7 or 8 years, I realized that program didn't flip and exist. So I decided to kind of go and build it myself. That's crazy. Alchemy Athletic, which is my new brand, we are currently building out the back end infrastructure, kind of regarding the tech side. So that should be ready to launch some kind of around about mid-July.
And that's all on Instagram. People go to Alchemy Athletic.
Yep. So there is, at the moment, we've got a couple of lead pages out where people can register their interest. So I'll send you guys the link if you kind of put that in the description.
Yeah, 100%.
100%. Register your interest and we shall email you when the dates are ready.
I have to say as well, for your personal social media, which is, what's your handle on social media?
At Jim H. Galvin on Instagram and just Jim Galvin on YouTube.
The content you put on there is like top tier. I keep sharing it, and I keep putting it out, like, people need to follow you. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like your follow count it doesn't do justice of how good the quality of content and the quality of what is in the content.
I appreciate
It's
it.
the message, isn't it?
It is
really
incredible.
Is the message behind everything you do. Like I say, you genuinely are inspirational to me, and I seriously look up to you. And
I appreciate that,
I've
man.
taken
Thank you,
on
bro.
board so many things that you've told us.
Should we all kiss? You
Yeah,
don't?
absolutely. But I think that needs to go on the Patreon. People need to fucking pay for that.
We do. We keep saying we need to do a Patreon, but
There we go.
we need sponsors and money because this cost way too much to set up.
And now you've got blood tests to add to the list of expenses as well.
Oh yeah, I feel like I really want to do this. This will be this will be that'll be quite a good podcast to come back to. We'll send. How long does it take to get back?
Mate, it's so quick. So they actually work. I didn't even realise this. They work with Superdrug. And Superdrug can basically Medichecks can send a nurse into Superdrug because Superdrugs have like an office or something or a nurse centre.
Right.
You literally go in there, they take your blood, takes like 5 seconds, then you send it off, and they email you the full kind of panel results within about a week. It's really quick.
Mad.
We're going to do this. Right, well, thanks for coming on, Jim. Love
Thanks
it.
for having me, man.
Buddy.
Appreciate it.
And if no matter where you're listening on, Spotify is the main one, Apple Music is the second, and then I think it's YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're following, subscribing.
We're also Instagram Live
Oh,
today.
yeah, we're also Instagram Live. I don't know. How many people are on Instagram? 2?
Yeah,
do
probably
I
no
even...
one now.
Started with 60. I don't know what it is now.
Oh, I don't even want it. 4 people. 4 people on there. It's where it's terrifying, and it comes back and it's like 80,000, and I'm like, oh, did I just...
It's good that we didn't know there was 80,000 beforehand.
exactly.
Yeah, that could have been. But yeah, make sure you're following and subscribing. Do you know what? For the growth of the podcast, we enjoy doing this because we're getting to have conversations with people that invigorate us. Is that the right word? Makes us feel... That feels like
It's appropriate.
yeah.
take it.
And we want to bring you along this journey. So by sharing the clips, the content, and getting the message out for what we're doing, it really helps us become rich. So make sure you're following and subscribe. But other
That's
than
the
that,
real noble ambition here.
Jim Galvin, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me
We'll
on.
see you again
We'll see you
soon.
soon.
Thank you
Peace.
everyone for
Cheers,
listening.
guys.
Peace.